Hi everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel 27 CICS. Please do like, share, comment on our videos and do subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. Yeah, and this video is about what your CICS Brain contains and how to access it and how to play around. So let's begin. Yeah, before you start off with this video, we would recommend a few prerequisites. Those are our existing videos on topics like Introduction to CICS, Zero Storage Concepts, and the magic inside CICS. We would recommend like watch this first and then watch the current video, so that will help you in better understanding uh, this video. Yeah, the learning objectives of this video are like you'll be able to list out the various CICS supply transactions and the functions of these supply transactions and how to use these transactions and inquire and control system resources. Okay, so what exactly we are referring to CICS Brain is nothing but in our previous video, that is the magic inside CICS, we have seen how to bring up a CICS region and the amount of memory we allocate it to the region and how we control the region size. We all discussed in our previous video. That is what we are depicting in the form of a brain. That's it. So here CSS brain represents the storage or the virtual storage allocated to your CSS region. Okay, so once your region is up, that means your region has got a virtual brain, right? So that brain stores all the details, system level details, that is the system parameters which you have supplied through setparms, okay, and also all the resources required to bring up a region. Not just CSS resources or the system level resources. So it also contains the application related resources, like it could be a file, program, transaction, anything for that matter. So in this video, we're gonna see like how to control these resources, how to access these resources, and uh, so on and so forth, and also at the system level as well. Okay, so yeah, let's move on. Yeah, to do that, CICS has provided some supply transactions. Okay, to do to deal with various facilities which CICS provides. And these are not the complete set of CSS transactions, but it's a partial list. And we always say the lucky number uh, for CSS is 4 because the word itself comprises of 4 characters, and the same goes with the CSS supply transactions. So each CSS transaction starts with the letter C, and also they are of size 4 characters. Okay, so beware when you use character C for your application transaction. CSS might throw a warning at you. Okay, so these are the bunch of CSS transactions. Okay, if you see the first three, they all belong to CSS IMS connection. Okay, CDBC is used to connect and disconnect for CSS from the IMS subsystem. Okay, and CDBI is used to inquire the status of the connection, and whereas CDBM is used to uh, submit some operator commands to IMS through CSS. Okay, and the next transaction is CEBR, which is used to browse the TSQs, and the CECA transaction is also called the command level interpreter, with which you can trigger the exec CSS commands or the CSS API commands. Okay, and the SEDA is used to define resources online, and there are transactions like CEDF and CEDX which belong to this category, that is execution diagnostic facility, where you can use these transactions and debug your application problems. And there's one more transaction called CKL, which is used in emergency purpose in case your master terminal, that is CMT, is not working to purge the hung transactions. Okay. It's always better you try purging transactions using CMT first. If it doesn't work, then you can use CKL. Okay, and remember, CKL cannot be issued from a CICS transaction. It has to be issued from a console. Okay, and CMT is the master terminal with which you can control multiple of things. Multiple things like your resources, both CA system and application resources, and as well the system palms itself. Okay, so this is one of the powerful transaction, CICS apply transaction. Okay, and you have few more like COT, which is used to inquire your terminal status, and CSF is used to sign off from your CICS screen, and CSN is used to sign on. And this transaction CKQC is used to connect, disconnect, and get more details about CSS MQ related info. And other transaction like CLER is used to display the runtime options of language environment. CMAC is used to for message and codes display. Okay, and C message is used for message switching, where you can send messages to a different terminal. Okay, or a user, provided he is logged into that CSS region. Okay, and you have another transaction called DSNC, which is used to display information related to CSS DB2 connections and the threads. Okay, you can use this, or you can use CMT as an alternate. Okay, even CMT provides CSS DB2 related information. Okay, let's move on. This is not the complete list of all the supply transactions, but it's a partial list. So let's take a look at the important ones. Okay, so as we thought, the CSS virtual storage or the CSS brain, like if you want to run something into that inside that brain, first you need to log in to that storage which you have acquired by bringing up the CSS region, right? So for that you need to supply your login ID and password to CSS so that it sends a request to the RACF in the backend and gets it verified and allows you to enter. So to do all that, you need a transaction called CSN, that is the sign-on transaction. Okay, you just type in CSN transaction on a CSS screen and you get this panel, okay, wherein you can provide the user ID and the password, and if they're valid, you get a successful logon message, and from then you can proceed with your work. Okay. And sometimes, like whenever you enter a CSS transaction, okay, it's always better to clear the screen and enter. Okay, and there are scenarios where people doesn't issue the CSN, but they just clear the screen, the welcome screen, for example, and they just start issuing the transactions. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, because if you doesn't log in explicitly to CSS, what happens is there's a sitpam called default user ID. So all the transactions which you trigger without logging into CSS, they are they take the user ID of default user, and according to the access provided to that default user ID, you may or may not be able to execute all the transactions. Normally they try to restrict the access of default user ID so that people can trigger transactions without even logging into CSS. Okay, so it's always better to log in with your credentials and see what you can access to. Okay, yeah, there's another transaction called COT, which is especially used to inquire about your own terminal status. Like once you log in, CSS provides a terminal ID for your purpose, for your terminal. Okay, it's mostly 4 letter, and yeah, by using this COT transaction, you can display or inquire various properties of that terminal. Okay, and also you can change few values, like for example, you can change the uppercase translation to no uppercase translation, or you want to restrict the uppercase translation to just the tran ID, you can still do that. So it can be used to inquire the details of your terminal where you logged in, or it can also be used to change some values according to your needs. Mainly, like there are few cases where when you deal with Java related audios or values, they might be in mixed case. So that time you may want to change these attributes and uh, use it. Okay. Yeah. And this message and code display transaction, that is CMAC, okay, it's just used to display CSS messages and codes. And this is the syntax how you use, like you just type in CMAC, or you can use CMAC in the append code, okay, and you can use CMAC followed by the number, CSS message numbers, okay, or you can give CMAC followed by YY stands for domain or the component ID, and followed by the message number, or CMAC followed by DFH and the message number, or CMAC followed by DFH component ID and the message number. Okay, so each CSS message will be of this type. I mean, this is the syntax of or full form of your CSS message. That is, it all CSS messages, they start with TFH and followed by the 2 letter component ID or the domain ID, and then followed by the 4 letter number. Okay, you can use any of these forms, or if you're not able to remember, no problem. You can just type in CMAC and you get this nice little screen wherein you can type in the component ID or the message number or the append code itself. Then you get some information related to those messages. Okay, uh, wherein you can read and proceed further. But one thing you need to remember is these contents, okay, are getting loaded from a dataset called DFH CMAC D. Okay, but IBM has announced that they are not going to update that dataset anymore, and the best way to read any message or codes related to CSS is the knowledge center, the online way, okay, where the details are more up to date. Okay, but there are few people still allowed to use this CMAC, and it's still supported but not up to date. Okay. Yeah, resource definition online. This is one of the important concept in CICS. Earlier, all the resource definitions were in the form of tables or macros. Okay, they were assembled, linked, and converted to a load module and loaded into CICS storage. Later, IBM has shifted from that macro approach to resource definition online approach, whereas you store the details in a vsam file, the ksts file, and from there you access the definitions. Okay, you write into a vsam file, you read it from a vsam file, and you alter, you can do whatever. Okay, so to maintain all that, css has provided some bunch of transactions. Here we are dealing with seda, which is the prime transaction which deals with this resource definition online. By using SEDA, you can define the resources to your system, and you can even change them even when CS is up and running. Okay, so it's a easy way when compared to uh, defining resources using macros. Okay, so this is again a partial set or of capabilities which SEDA can handle or which SEDA has. Okay, there are much more things which SEDA can do. Okay, if you want to have a list, you can just on a CSS screen you can just type in SEDA and hit enter. You will get a big list of uh, things which a SEDA transaction can handle. Okay, and one more thing with these transactions, like sometimes mm, that you need to provide a lot of keywords. Okay, either you mention all the keywords required for your action in a single statement, or you can just enter one keyword and hit enter. Then you will get the appropriate uh, keywords, and you can pick from them from there and proceed further. You can do a phase wise approach, or if you remember the syntax, you can give it in a single statement. Anything is fine. Yeah, so SEDA supports define. Define is nothing but you define a resource, okay, and each resource like a program, transaction, file, anything. It has a bunch of attributes to define its behavior, okay. So everything is descriptively defined in uh, knowledge center. Okay, you can refer that knowledge center and see what each resource has got attribute list. Okay, so SEDA with define, you define resource. Okay, and once you define and you want to alter it, you can do that by using SEDA alter. And you want to see what you have defined, then you can display. Display will just list out all the resources pertaining to that name, whether you display resources starting with a star or anything like a program abcd, it will just display. But if you want to view the in detail attributes, then you need to use SEDA view, okay, to get the in-depth or full list of attributes of a particular resource. Okay, so you define, then you decide to delete it at a later stage. You can very well do that by using SEDA delete. Okay, uh, yeah, and there are a few more options which SEDA can do, or few more capabilities SEDA has, but these are the important ones. If you see the first five which we discussed, or first five which we discussed, they all act upon the CSD file. That is nothing but your vsem ksds file. The name of that file is dfhcsd. The dd name, it's a standard dd name, that is dfhcsd. Okay, and but whereas the next command, that is SEDA install, this is the command which what it does is like it reads the contents from the CSD file or the DFH CSD file and installs them into your CSS storage. Okay, so this deals with both the SD and the real storage. Okay, so once you install a resource, only then the resource will be available to CSS. You just define and leave it, it will not be available to CSS. The more about resource definition online we will see in our upcoming videos, but for now I think this is good enough. Okay, uh, the next transaction would be CMT. As we discussed earlier, this is one of the important transaction, that is also called as your CSS master terminal transaction. Okay, by using this you can dynamically change the status of various resources inside your CSS, and also there's the system parameters itself, and you can terminate tasks, you can even shut down your CSS region, you can reset time, that is like you can sync your CSS clock with MVS clock. So lot many actions can be performed using your CMT transaction. Okay, if you're not aware what your CMT transaction does, you can again, as I told, most of the transactions follow a phase by approach. Okay, you can just type in CMT and it shows all these four options which it can do. And again, these four options in turn, they have n number of options. Again, you can pick one of these options. Like for example, you want to inquire something, you can just say CMT inquire. Then again, it lists out what all you can inquire. Okay, you can do it in a phase wise manner. And another thing to notice here is, if you see, each keyword is given in a mixed case. Okay, what exactly that means is it's done purposefully. Okay, so you don't have to type in the full keyword, you can just pick the letters which are mentioned in uppercase and you can proceed further. Okay, yeah. If you take the inquire option, you can inquire a lot of things, and you can inquire the status of lot of resources. Okay, you just type in CMT inquire, it throws a big list at you on what all resources you can inquire upon. And the default and the important one is the system. You can inquire at a system level as well. So you given CMT inquire system, so it displays a lot of attributes like the CSS release itself, and it also displays the OS level as well. That is your ZOS operating system version. Okay, and if your system is connected to CSS system is connected to DB2, it also displays the DB2 connection, to which subsystem it has connected to. And as I told earlier, you do not sign on. Uh, Still, CSS can run couple of transactions under default user ID, so it displays that as well, the default user. And it displays the DSL limit, EDSL limit. Okay, and when it was last initialized and all that, and the max task details and a lot more details about your CSS region. You can get it with a single command, that is CMT inquire system. Okay, and then there are a few more, a lot more things you can do with CMT inquire. I mean, you can inquire status of files, you can inquire status of current running task, or you can inquire status of transactions, programs, and XYZ. Okay, and the next option in CMT is the set. Okay, with which you can change the status of one or more instances. Why we say more instances, like if you see here the syntax of CMT set program in this example. Okay, you need to set a value. Either you can give an asterisk or you can give a star or anything. So what all displayed, to you can set the values to what all displayed based on your value palm. Okay, yeah, and you can make a program enable, disabled, or uh, you can a new copy a program, that is like refresh the module. Okay, so you can do all those which are supported. Okay, here in this example we just use program, but you can change status of many other resources which CMT set supports. Okay, yeah, next comes the CMT discard option. Okay, discard whatever installed inside your CSS storage or inside your CSS brain. Okay, you can remove them from the system. Okay, so that they will no longer be present for that instance of CSS, but uh, for a permanent deletion, you need to alter the system palms, or the audio cleanup should be done at a CSD level, because that is a permanent storage, which is a vsam file, right? So yeah, because if you just discard and again with a recycle of a region, so the memory gets recreated, and things might get installed back from your CSD file or your sitpalms, right? So yeah, just be aware that this is just acting upon the CSS memory. Okay, and when you discard any resource, there is a place called catalog, that is your global catalog, which we discussed in our earlier video. So an entry will be made when a resource is installed there, and when you discard even the entry from the catalog, will be removed. Okay, a couple of ways you can do a discard. That is, you can give CMT discard and resource type and the resource name. Okay, resource type could be program, file, transaction, or anything. Or there is a safe way where you can discard resources. Like first you just inquire on that resource type. Here they have selected program. Okay, and here you got a list of programs, bunch of programs here, and selectively they are discarding by placing a D in front of this program and the last program. Okay, so first you want to inquire and then safely delete. You can still do it with CMT inquire as well, or if you are sure, you can use CMT discard. Okay, the next and one of the powerful option is perform. Okay, as I said, you can scan the ZOS directories. That methodology we use for CSS web services. We scan the pipelines. Okay, and you can take system dumps by keeping the region up and running, and you can gather statistics of a CSS region, and you can reset the CSS region time. That is, like, you can sync CSS clock with MVS. Especially people do that CMT perform reset during daylight saving changes. Okay, and you can even shut down your CSS region as well. And in the below picture, we are showing the syntax of how you do a perform shutdown. Okay, so again, shutdown, you can do a normal shutdown with the first command, or if the region is not coming down normally, then you can try out shutdown immediate. Okay, which brings down the region forcefully. Okay, so you should be careful and try restricting the access to only the system admins or the operators. Like, you give the perform access, then there is a risk like they might shut down a region knowingly or unknowingly. Okay, so be careful. Yeah, there's one more transaction CSS provides, that is CEBR, which is especially used to browse the queues. Okay, the main purpose of CEBR is to browse TSQs, but there's an indirect way through which you can browse the TDQs as well. Okay, you just try to copy the content of a TDQ into a TSQ, read it, and if you still need the data inside that TDQ, you can again recreate the TDQ, because TDQs, like, they are once read, they are gone. Okay, so this is how a CEBR transaction looks like. You just type in CEBR followed by the TSQ name you wish to browse. It browses that TSQ and shows the details. Okay, or you can just type in CBR, hit enter, and you can populate this TSQ field with the TSQ of your choice, and you get the records here. Okay, yeah, there is another transaction called CECI, which is called as command level interpreter, which is especially used to run your exec CSS commands without any program. Okay, you don't need to code anything, but if you just want to test your exec CSS commands, you can still do that. Whenever you run a CECI transaction with the full statement build, CSS checks for syntax. Okay, and it pops out whenever it feels like the syntax is incorrect or incomplete. Okay, so once it is complete, then you can execute it if you wish to, and you can get the results. And most of the results will be in the form of numbers. They're nothing but your CVDA values, that is your CICS value data areas. Okay, which you need to compare um, by using a CSS manual which shows CVDA values. Okay, and you can figure out like what exactly these values mean. So for example, if the status is enabled, it has a different CVDA value. If it is disabled, it has a different CVDA value. Okay, so if the command is successfully executed, you get a response here as normal. Okay, and you also get a nice little response codes, that is EIB response and EIB response 2. So mostly 00 means it is successful. Okay, so you can use the CCI and uh, check your exec CSS commands before embedding them into your program, or you can use CCI to temporarily update or correct some fault records in your vsem files. Many other examples where you can use your CCI. Okay, there are few exceptions where you cannot run CCI, few options of CCI like get main, free main, right? But most of the other CCI CICS APIs you can try using CCI. Okay, the next transaction would be CEDF and CEDX. These both transactions are used for execution diagnostic facility, in short referred to as EDF. Okay, so when you turn on EDF after you log into CICS, your terminal gets into EDF mode. Okay, what I mean by EDF mode is like whenever you trigger any transaction after you turned on after you ran this transaction or turned on EDF on your terminal. So your program, instead of running directly, it runs in EDF mode. Okay, so wherever your program encounters exec css command, it stops and it gives a display like this. Okay, what the exec css command is and what are the values and whether it is getting successfully executed and what all the response codes and all that, and what is the line number, what is the offset of that statement, and all that details it provides. Okay, so you hit enter, it proceeds further and it executes your native language statements, and whenever again it hits the next exec css command, it stops there and it displays the details to you. So this way you can isolate the application problems versus CSS problems, okay, in a way. Okay, and you can also use CEDF to enable EDF mode on a different terminal as well. Not just on your terminal, you can use CEDF on a different terminal as well. Like you give CEDF space a terminal, so that terminal instead of your terminal will be in EDF mode. Okay, so you can see the details of the user who is logged in on that terminal and what he is doing. You can see it on your screen. Okay, and whereas CEDX, it all the discussion which we have done related to CEDF applies to CEDX, but only thing is like it is used for a non-terminal based. Like you know the transaction name, then you can use it with CEDX, like CEDX space transaction name. Okay, especially this is useful when you deal with the web related transactions because they do not use a terminal, they come from the web. Okay, so to catch errors or to debug such kind of transactions, CEDX will be useful. And from within CEDF or CEDX, you can still invoke CECI and CEBR transactions if you need it. Uh, yeah, and you have another CSS provided this is not a CSS provided transaction for your info. It is provided by the language environment software. Like because CSS supports multiple languages. Okay, you need to have a common runtime environment to support all these languages, or to support the programs written in these languages to run inside CSS. So that task is taken care by this product called language environment. In short, it is called as LE. Okay, so this is not shipped as part of CSS. Okay, so this is a LE transaction, but it obeys the CSS transaction structure, that is 4-letter and starts with C. And by using this CLER, you can find out the runtime options of LE. Sometimes you can tune these parameters and get better throughput. Okay, and a few options are dynamically editable or changeable. Okay, so if you are interested to know what runtime options a region has pertaining to LE, you can use this transaction CLER. Okay, and the last transaction for our discussion would be the sign off, that is CSF. Okay, so once you're done, you just have to sign off, and this is the syntax. Either you use CSF goodnight or CSF log off. So it takes you out of CSS or logs you out of CSS, and once you log off on your terminal, you get a sign off message indicating like uh, you are successfully signed off from the CSS terminal. Okay, and also a message is written to a TDQ called CSCS, and in case when you are logging off, if there is any error, so those messages are written to another TDQ called CSMT, which you can refer later and see what happened, what exactly happened, like why the sign off failed, and fix the issue. Okay, so yeah, that's it related to the topic. And in case uh, uh, you like the video, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and press the bell icon. Thanks for watching the video, and if you have any training requirements, please do email to 27css@gmail.com. Thank you.